The demon looked much as I expected it to. Standing at roughly twice my height, its skin was cracked and burnt as if it had been pressurized under heat high enough to charboil humans and strong enough to snap metals like twigs. Though hunched over, its vestigial wings flapped futilely as it threw itself against the barrier of a table salt I'd scattered around it, all 8 of its compound eyes blinking in confusion and finally understanding. "Good evening. It seems I am at your beck and call, O mighty summoner." Bowing with overemphasized courtesy, the demon licked its lips with both its tongues, not once taking its eyes off me. "What is it that you wish? Money, vast fortunes that rival the greatest of the powerful and wealthy men that rule your world? Yes, you'd like that, wouldn't you? No, perhaps not. Power is what you crave. The power to shape your own destiny, to take your life into your hands and drive before you all those things that have done you wrong. Power to challenge your own weakness. Perhaps something else. Romance, love, naked lust, that's what you want, isn't it? A selection of the finest skins for you to drink and eat your fill from. Speaking in metaphor." The demon prattled on, finally falling silent as I said nothing at all, simply watching it, and watching, and watching. Finally, it began to pace around in the circle it was trapped in nervously, its spade-like tail swishing back and forth nervously, and its eyes no longer to keep step with my own. Occasionally, it opened its mouth to speak, but my silence took it by the throat and strangled the words from its lips, and my guest remained quiet as well, uncertain and unnerved. Finally it spoke. "Don't you have some sort of command for me? I can't imagine you brought me into your world simply to stare." But its courage was beginning to break. I could already see the creature beginning to think. This was not how things usually went. By now, most would have made their demands, petty and useless things that were as ephemeral as anything else in this world. I wanted something else entirely, something more interesting. Slowly, I permitted myself the luxury of a smile and began to speak. The demon relaxed visibly, its shoulders sagging into its skin. "Yes, I want you to play with me. I want to have fun today." If it were possible for skepticism to be in the lightning-like eyes of the demon, then all of them blinked in disbelief, like parapets of obsidian and silver. Tilting its head to the side, the demon coughed nervously, wringing its hands together while searching for words it could not find. "That's quite the request you got there. I'll definitely want blood, soul. Is that really all you want? Absolutely nothing else?" "Yes, that is all." "Damn. Well, I don't normally do this, but consider this on the house, because I'm feeling courteous. Don't expect this to become a regular occurrence, though." "Well then, summoner, no need for these circles, right, since we have a deal?" Already my boots were kicking the salt out of the way, and the demon capered toward me, stretching to its full height with a crack of bone and leather. It reminded me of an unusually tall dog, the way it seemed to savor being free of the confinements of my summoning wards, leaping and frolicking around the room before settling before me in another low bow. "Yes, well then, fantastic to meet you. I'll be your companion for the day, and have you laughing in the time it takes to build a castle from sand. So what do you humans normally do for enjoyment in these times? Perhaps we shall string some servants from the balustrade and frame others for our cruelties. Ooh, or we could plant seeds that grow twisted and fell, nurturing the hatred in the hearts of others. Yes, best of all, we could spread nasty words that give people hurt feelings on your human intranets." Cackling to himself, the demon looked at me expectantly, eager to cause mischief and sow panic. I scratched the back of my neck. "I suppose we could go for a walk. I like walks." The demon looked nonplussed, as we left my large house in the countryside and stepped into the cold morning air. Being a demon, it wasn't too fond of the chill, so I let it borrow 2 of my coats as we left the house. It looked ridiculous, its leathery red-orange skin wrapped in coats that didn't really fit any of its limbs, but at least it didn't shiver every other step. I live a little ways from town. It takes perhaps 50 minutes to walk there, though the walk is nice and refreshing. Birds were singing, and I admire the solitude. Sometimes. Constantly darting from to and fro with a look of awe and confusion atwixt its eyes, the demon lunged at songbirds and clambered up trees, spider-like limbs tearing chunks of tree skin and resin from them as it scampered into high canopies and stared into the world around it. I could hear it yelling excitedly, listening to the echo of its own voice, then jumping from the top of the trees and landing on all fours. This is great. This is fantastic. There's nothing really like this from where I come from. You humans really are lucky, you know. I'm happy, I'm thrilled, envious, excited. No wonder you like walks. I definitely like walks as well. A wise human like you is a wise summoner. I think we shall get along swimmingly. Saying nothing, I nodded my head. The town was making its way slowly into view, and I was hungry. So I brought the demon to a local diner. A ceiling fan drifted lazily overhead as the demon helped itself to 5, perhaps 6 portions of gravy and biscuits as I sipped my tea and ate a pastry with somewhat stale cream cheese frosting. The waitress, an aging woman who'd knocked me for as long as I'd been alive, smiled as she brought the demon the 12th cup of coffee. And there you go, hon. You're awfully hungry for one of your ick. My, it's always such a pleasure to have friends stop by. You really like those biscuits, don't you? Oh, yes. The delectability of the gravy, the savory tang and crunch. These are fantastic. You must send my compliments to your food fabricators. I shall bequeath them a duchy in the next life. You betcha. And she was going to say something else, but my fingers tapped the table twice. The waitress looked pale and swallowed slowly, turning her face to me, though not quite meeting my eyes. And can I get you anything, hon? Just the check, please, Dahlia. Thank you. The bell rang as we left, the demon managing to juggle 2 to-go boxes stuffed full of biscuits and leaking gravy across the still frost-strewn ground. A few children running by must have felt it was quite comical because they laughed, and the demon looked quite embarrassed, dropping 1 box to the ground. Its face briefly became a mask of misery, though it tried its best to hide it. So, summoner, where to now? Perhaps a lake of fire that we might look at the tar pitch bubbling from within. No, a lake of ice that glistens with the stillness of 1,000 dead and a silent moon hanging from above. Close enough. The lake was still icy, though it was perhaps halfway into spring. This wasn't surprising to me, as the town in which we lived was pretty rural and could be considered somewhat rough by folks from the city proper. There were a few benches around the lake that we could rest on, or admire the geese and swans from. But the real reason I brought the demon here was the playground. Aging and rusty as most everything where I lived, the swings still worked. Though I'm not that young anymore, I'm pretty short and pretty small. Small enough to fit into the swings, at least. I did so, and stared at the demon staring at me. Push me. I intoned, and the demon realized the purpose of the swing. I let my legs dangle over the side and just forgot about the world for what seemed like hours, but in reality it was only minutes. The sky had begun to drift toward noon and was too bright, my eyes half shutting every time the swing went higher. From below, I could hear the demon shout something excitedly, but I wasn't really listening. This, too, would come to an end eventually, after all. Finally, the demon stopped, and the swing stopped, and I fell back to earth. My half-boots skittered against the ground, causing chunks of frosty soil to leap from the ground as if escaping my presence. The demon leaped in front of me, smiling with all 4 of its rows of jagged teeth. That looks fun. That looks really fun. You should push me. You should definitely push me. I did, of course, listening to the demon hoot and holler and then fall silent as it thought about whatever demons think of when there halfway between the earth and the sky. There were other things in the playground, a slide set, a climbing and hiding cave, a sandbox, but they were all too small, even for I. Now the day was late, so I motioned for the demon, and it instantly disappeared from the swing mid-air, a puff of sulphurous smoke, reappearing at my side with an expectant smirk. "Yes, O monosyllabic one. Do you have a command, or did something deviously entertaining enter your mind? Perhaps we shall go acquire more of what you humans consume for food, yes?" The demon looked at me expectantly. And once again, it was half right. Though it wasn't late enough for anything to eat, I did plan to go shopping again. Today was a good day for it. It always took me a while to find the bookstore, not because it was particularly hidden, but simply because I have a sort of mental block, if you will. The moment I set foot in such places, I'm lost for hours, and time is the only thing I really value. Time is what allows us to do great things, to create, to work, to play, to live. But time is also what I manage worse, and whenever I enter a bookstore, all I can think of is the smell of paper and the feel of pages and perhaps coffee and quiet, save for the chatter of children and the questions of others milling about on their own, in couples and groups. As for the demon, it seemed quite confused, though not unhappy, with the purpose of the bookstore. It realized enough not to clamber up the shelves and spill books from their perch, which was good, but it seemed not to be interested in the books so much as the people there, watching them intently as they went about their business. No, perhaps it seemed surprised by the fact that people didn't seem to care at all about, besides a few off-kilter stares at its eyes, bugged out and off-kilter. Summoner, why isn't anyone afraid of me? Am I not terrifying? Am I not mortifying? Do the people of this world still fear those that dwell beyond? My eyes drifted from the page of a novel I was reading, a thriller romance with mystery elements. It was pretty bad, and I wasn't interested in buying it, but liked the cover illustration. No, not really. No one much cares about anything but themselves. The demon asked several more questions, but I'd already ignored it and set about finishing my book. Halfway through, I placed it back on the shelf and noticed that the demon had already found several books which it had snuck into the remaining box of food from earlier. Gravy sloshed from the pages, and the demon once again looked embarrassed, but hopeful. It opened its mouth, but I already nodded curtly, and then, after thinking about the rest of the evening, threw in a small candy bar as well. After all things considered, it was only appropriate. The demon consumed its chocolate slowly as we made our way home. It didn't want to eat the dark chocolate and lavender confection quickly, but it was salivating with every step, clearly pleased to the point of madness with the treat. It may or may not have been talking to me, but I was lost in thought. Not lost enough not to hear a question asked plaintively. "So then, what shall we do for the evening, Summoner? You seem to have had an exquisite plan so far, so I have no complaints. Save that this too must come to an end. Lead the way, and I shall follow." My head bobbed up and down, yes, and affirmative. I was already thinking about what I had purchased from the bookseller, or more accurately, drawn from storage. The look of unpleasant acquiescence on the bookseller's face as he handed me the package, heavy enough to carry in one hand, yet so cool to the touch once removed. It was one of many, of course, but this one was new, and I was eager to break it in. For the rest of the day, I thought we'd just watch television. Very well. The demon sounded noticeably disappointed, its tail falling to the ground and its eyes downcast. To be honest, I would feel that way as well. I don't really like television or anything too reactive, but I had made my decision, or perhaps it had been made for me. My living room had one television, one sofa. The demon sprawled itself and flicked through the channels idly, eventually settling on a stand-up comedy show with some people who had been popular 5, perhaps 10 years ago. "I'll be in the kitchen. Is there anything you want for dinner?" You're asking me. How nice of you." Confusion wavered in the demon's voice, as well as genuine surprise. I could no longer see it as I prepared dinner, but I could mentally imagine it. agape and pondering what to ask for, not knowing the name of many earth dishes or foods, but knowing tastes and feel and words in its own demonic tongue for the things it might enjoy, and yet not knowing how to phrase them. The kitchen smock I had put on covered most of my body as my knife cut and hacked. By the time the demon had regained some semblance of conversation, I had already finished a meal of fried herring and tomatoes, cut greens and lettuce and radish, and thick rye crackers. We ate in silence, the demon stuffing food into its face with joy at every bite. A half-lie. The demon was trying to talk as it ate, but failing at both. I finished before it, and watched it finish the last of its food with silent eyes. Once again the demon had realized I was staring at it, and looked away, chittering to itself. My clock struck 8. Precisely 12 hours from when I had been called into this world. Well, this is awkward, but I suppose I should go. I nodded slowly. My skin was coated with sweat. The demon didn't fail to notice, but couldn't understand why. It was really fun. I haven't had this much fun with a summoner for ages, perhaps ever. Usually you're all such dour people that want to cause harm to others. Makes it a real pain to get called forth. I'd go as far to say you're the best summoner ever. Isn't that great? Congratulations. Cooing and crooning in the weird susurrations of demon speech, the demon bared its teeth in what was a genuine smile for one of its ilk. Unsure how to read me, but assuming that my own smile was a mirror of its own. Taking it by one hand analog, I continued to smile, fighting the twitching in my left eye. Yes, thank you. Come with me now. The demon looked a little confused, but nodded and followed me haltingly up the stairs. I threw some table salt back into the wards from earlier, and they hissed back to life with just enough room for the demon to step through before I threw my last of salt, sealing it off. The demon waved, still smiling. Again, thanks, summoner. I wouldn't mind seeing you again. It was fun. The demon was surrounded by smoke, smoke as dark and ochre-colored as anything that had ever graced the earth. But it did not disappear. Shocked, the demon tried once again to dematerialize, only to find the wards had grown stronger and more green around it as I paced in endless circles, my breathing heavy. It was fun for you, you say? I turned to lick my lips. They were dry with the cold and sweat and anticipation. The demon nodded slowly, unsure where I was going. But you, none of you ever keep your promises. My hands began to tremble as I reached into my pocket, fingers curling around the tip of my new package, the cold iron butcher's knife that sang joyously into my mind as I grasped it by the handle and drew it out. It's never fun for me. There was no time for a look of surprise as I leapt forward and lacerated the demon limb from limb, chop, chop, hack, hack. Demon blood gushed from multiple wounds as the light in the eyes of the demon went from confused to horrified to quiet, clouded over with great webs that would never light again. As the seals of the wards faded away, I knelt over the crumpled demon and sawed and hacked away its sinews and bone. Every few moments I stopped, wiped the sweat from my brow and the blood from my smock, and took a piece downstairs. The garbage disposal hummed on, hungry and monstrous, an abomination of steel and progress, eager to devour and consume. The crackle of demon skin as metal teeth ripped through it was met by the gurgle and snapping of bone. After every round of disposal, I would let the tap water flow, washing away the grimy black bile of the demon's blood and carrying away any trace that had been there. Finally, I was done. Removing the smock from my waist, I let it drop to my attic floor and sighed, and resisted the urge to cry. All I wanted, all I ever want, was a day that was fun for me. Why do all the demons I summon have to be so selfish? This next one will be better. I can already feel it in my bones and my blood. I'm a little tired, but I always am. Almost 8 o'clock, it seems. Sweeping dust away from my circle, I go to fetch more salt from my kitchen. (8:14, 15, 11:37 a.m.) Charlie, I'm Detective Schultz. Do you know why you're here today? The detective gestured toward the unkempt 16-year-old, dressed in a loose blue sweatshirt adorning several holes in baggy jeans, his shaggy hair covering his forehead. The boy looked as if he hadn't bathed in at least a week, and the odor all but confirmed it. Do you have any idea why I brought you in today? The detective asked again. Charlie slouched in his chair across from his interrogator, his arms folded at his chest. He stared blankly toward the middle of the table between them. Is that your question? Are you asking if you know why I'm here? Yes, Charlie. I'm curious if you know why you're sitting in this room talking with me. The detective lifted a cup of coffee to his mouth and sipped, then sat it back down and gestured toward a second cup that he slid in front of the boy. Charlie continued to stare blankly, and the detective concluded the boy would not talk. Charlie, do you remember the night of the 5th? What were you doing? Charlie grabbed the coffee that was offered to him, but instead of drinking it, he pushed it back toward the detective. I never cared much for coffee. He leaned back, folding his arms at his chest once again. I like tea. He gazed deeply into the detective's eyes. I don't remember the 5th. That was 9 nights ago. I've done a lot since then. Have you? What do kids your age do around here? Charlie shrugged. I don't do what kids around here do, and you know that. The boy closed his eyes, tilting his head back. I guess you're right. What does Craig like to do? The boy scratched at the premature stubble on his chin. Craig, he said submissively. That's right. Your buddy Craig Summers. Where's he? The detective leaned forward, resting his weight on the table, his elbows pointed outward. Across from him, Charlie seemed lost in a daydream as seconds passed, and with every one of those seconds, the tick of the clock kept them rooted in this otherwise silent room, pausing the world around them. Do you know where Craig is, Charlie? Charlie, now looking toward the fluorescent light above, took a deep sigh. Craig disappeared, Jim. The detective looked bothered by the boy's assertion, leaning back in his chair as it squeaked loudly, breaking the tedium of the clock's ticks only for a moment. Why did you call me Jim? He asked bluntly. Why does anyone call you anything? It's your name, is it not? You may call me Detective Schultz, Mr. Schultz, or simply James. Do not call me Jim. James pondered for a moment, gazing into Charlie's inattentive hazel eyes. How did you even know my name was James? The boy continued to stare above, as if looking past the light in the center of the ceiling and into some dark void beyond. There were several moths in the casings surrounding the bulbs, having died while trapped inside. What is life, Jim? James was confused at the question. Excuse me? I asked a question, Jim. What is life? What is it to you? Baffled, James answered the question as best he could. Well, to me, it was my family, my wife and children. Yes. A nice house, an expensive car, a swimming pool, food in the fridge, heat in the winter. A good job, one that provides for that family you have. Watching the games on Sunday? Where's the point in this? The point is that there are two types of people in the world, Jim. The ones that see a certain reality in which trivialities and luxuries are one of any worth, and the ones too smart for their own good. The ones that know we're all clinging to something that might kill us. Charlie continued staring toward the fluorescent light and lifeless moths. James looked up toward the light, noticing the flickering nuisance it was, and then back toward the boy. Son, I'm trying my hardest to be calm with you. I'll forget that you suggested my wife and children were trivial things, but you had better stop calling me Jim. The only people who called me Jim were my mother and, yes, your wife. Yes, Jim. James, his face red with anger, slammed his hand down upon the table as the boy let out a subtle grin. The detective breathed in and out a couple of times and apologized to the boy for an outburst. But look, Charlie, I don't find it amusing or impressive that you managed to hack into my home security system. The boy laughed. I've spent a lot of time bringing down servers all over the world. I would not waste time spying on you. Okay, the detective shrugged. You got me. Let's push all this to the side, son. You said your friend Craig. He's not my friend. James smiled, poking his finger in the boy's direction. Funny, you spoke of him in the past tense. Charlie, amused, had smiled back, eliciting whatever remained of the youth left inside of him. He's not here, is he? The detective wore his own smile as long as he could, then sighed. Where the hell is he, Charlie? The boy looked back up at the light. He seemed to be in his own world, toying with the detective, wasting his time. You seem stressed. Why don't you have a cigarette? James scoffed at the boy. I don't smoke, but thank you. Explain in detail what you were doing on the night of the 5th, Charlie. I'll tell you everything, Jim. It won't help you, but if you insist. Please. I met Craig online. Some hipster wannabe, but we shared similar interests and agreed to meet. We set up shop, shut down some servers in Brazil. He was good, but more talk, if you know what I mean. Sure. Continue. He mentioned a group of hackers. They were called Friends or Freedom or something lame like that. Said they knew how to bring down the whole net. You mean across the globe? What do you think? Charlie was finally talking, and the detective expressed relief. The entire internet. Why? To put us back in the Dark Age, Jim. Survival of the fittest. Why would you want to do that? I never said I wanted to do that, but Craig did. Did you know he had leukemia? I was told, yes. He was also 14. Not according to him. Charlie laughed. He wanted to chat with them. We went back and forth with a guy called Eye of the Fly. He said to meet him at midnight, in the alley between Frink's and Good Saves. I argued with Craig because I didn't think it was a good idea. He went anyways. James gestured toward the boy. And that was the last time you had seen him. You know I can leave any time I want, right? You have nothing incriminating against me, Jim. James smiled. There are 2 reasons why you're here, and 1 reason why I don't have you cuffed. Is that right? Yeah, afraid so, son. Once I have witnesses who saw you and Craig parked at Calvin Price at midnight, and then you alone running back to your car between 2 or 3 in the morning, I say it looked like you were running from something. Left in a hurry, burning your tires and everything. You even forgot to turn your lights on. Wild inaccuracies, Jim. 2, you left your car in that alley you mentioned. Contraband and all. Charlie was tapping his fingers upon the table. My car, his pot. Sadly, Craig's not here to verify that. Son, you were the last person seen with him, and then you ran and abandoned your car. Officers found contraband and an unregistered handgun in your car. The only reason you're not in cuffs right now is because I wanted you to feel comfortable. Safe. And like I said, those are wild inaccuracies, and you can throw your theories over the fence just like your cigarette butts. The detective was fuming as he slammed his hand on the table once again. You said you weren't spying on me, you little prick. I wasn't. The little boy was rotating in his chair left and right, the chair squeaking with every swivel. He leveraged his right foot on the heel of his left, then left to his right, removing his shoes and scooting them neatly side by side. He then leaned back, lifting his legs upon the table and crossing them. What your life is to you, Jim? James grunted, eyeing the boy's socks in their holes. My life? The one where you're helplessly clinging to something that will inevitably kill you, yes? Detective removed a pack of Marlboro Reds from his breast pocket, hidden behind his trench coat. He pulled a lighter from his pants and lit a cigarette. He couldn't take his eyes off the boy's feet, feeling repulsed as the big toe wriggled out of a hole. Are you threatening me, boy? That would mean I care, Jim. Even though his big toe was free, he continued wriggling it. That I care about your existence in this world. James ashed his cigarette in the middle of the table. That doesn't bother me, Charlie. What bothers me is your constant diversion. Answer my questions. You're just a speck, Jim. An insignificant grain of sand being swallowed by the tide. You're a blemish, really. A hiccup. Nothing more. Do you believe in God? My religious preference must be insignificant as well, wouldn't it, Charlie? He's abandoned you. And you have a personal relationship? A relationship. I don't call him God. Let me guess. A cyber kid like you. Atheist? That's just one less God than you. But no. James ashed his cigarette once more onto the middle of the table, using his pack to neatly gather the ashes into one small mound. That's fantastic, son. I've got all day. You have no idea how long you've got, Jim. What's that supposed to mean? Does anyone really? Besides someone like Craig? Like Craig. You see, Jim, we're all slaves. Enlighten me. He ashed his cigarette once more. I think I've been clear enough. However, isn't it time for us to be free? Free from what, Charlie? Ourselves. The detective put his cigarette out in the cup of coffee that he offered the boy, maintaining the ash mound he had cured in the middle. I've had enough of your games, son. Charlie peered in the corner behind James toward the camera. Do you know who all is watching us? Yes, I do. I don't think you do, Jim. The detective quickly slid his chair back and stood up. While I go grab some lunch, I'll let you think about how you want this to continue. Think long and hard, Charlie. I don't want you to rot in here forever. Charlie watched the detective walk toward the door. You'll never find the bodies. James slowly turned and saw the boy staring deeply into the light again. Bodies? As in more than one? I'd like a lawyer, the boy said as he blew the ash mound away in one gentle puff. 3:24 p.m. My client has agreed to a deal. James squinted, looking puzzled. A deal? What kind of deal does he think he can get? Detective Schultz, right? You may call me James, please. And you are Michelle? James didn't really care for pleasantries at the moment, but asked anyway. I'm Michelle only to my brother, Alice to everyone else. Alice offered her hand, and James accepted the handshake. James, Charlie isn't looking for a reduced sentence or anything of that nature. He's already stated that he's the only one who knows where the bodies are, and he realizes what that means. James was still puzzled. What exactly does he want? A record player. A record player? James laughed at the idea. And what will we be listening to? Alice looked down at the notepad in her left hand. Cosmos Factory. Do you mean the old Credence tape? Record, James. Right, record. I'll get it to him if that's what he wants. He turned around to open the door of the office and let Alice leave, but she grabbed his arm before he could do so. That's not all. He would also like some Skittles. Jesus Christ, I'll get him a damn truckload of Skittles. Anything else? 2 packs, he said. And not the silly flavors either, just the regular ones in the red package. He also wants a cream soda. 2 packs of Skittles and a cream soda. Okay. He also wants a comic book. Comic? Some gem that'll take me 3 weeks to find, I assume? X-Men number 1, he said. I don't know if it's rare, James, but he said he's prepared to wait. James nodded his head in slight disbelief at the demands, but accepted. Okay. Tell your boy to sit tight. 9/4/15. 11:17 p.m. James and Charlie sat across from each other in the room once again, each with their arms folded at their chest, the detective gazing intently on the boy. I've gotten you everything you've asked for. Here's your comic, James said as he pulled X-Men number 1 out of the inside pocket of his trench coat and slid it across the table. Play the record, Jim. The detective stood up, walked over to the record player that rested on an old corner table he had brought in. He pulled Cosmo's Factory out of its sleeve and placed it on the player and set the needle down. The room immediately filled with the twangy, distorted guitars of Ramble Tamble. Oh, oh, down the road I go. The boy opened a pack of Skittles, poured a few into his mouth, and washed them down with some ice-cold cream soda. Do you know that abandoned gas station outside of Calvin Price? You know, the one where that baby was found in the dumpster a couple of years ago? Sure. James seated himself and gestured for the boy to continue. Charlie opened up his comic book, first flipping through the pages, then starting from the first. Did you know that the X in X-Men was referring to the extra powers they had? James grimaced, but tried his hardest not to upset the boy. I don't care about that, Charlie. Later, Professor Xavier exclaimed that there was a mutant X genes that it was referring to. Interesting, huh? The gas station, Charlie. The second song had filled the room. Before you accuse me, take a look at yourself. From the back door, walk 1,000 steps and dig. 1:52 p.m. 933, 934, counted Officer Matthew Sanchez as he and 3 heavily armed SWAT team members closed in on the supposed grave. It had started raining half an hour before, and the mud slowed their progress. A helicopter circled the area above, surveying the flat plain and dirt roads for any bogeys. It proved a difficult task in the ensuing rainstorm. We got a van coming in from the north. Stand your ground, Matthew heard from his radio. He signaled to the chopper and ordered his men to crouch in the thick grass. He pulled out his binoculars and viewed the van from afar. He could see that it was solid white and speeding along the curved road that began to take the vehicle east. You're good to go, radioed the chopper. The men continued their count, and sure enough, once they reached 1,000, there was an area of 3 square meters with no vegetation. Just chopped soil, now softened by the rain. All right, each of you, dig. Matthew had to yell over the heavy rainfall. They dug, and during the wetness, each of them slipping a few times. Finally, they reached what appeared to be the corner of a white plastic box. Michael pulled out his phone and called Detective Schultz. We found it. 2:46 p.m. Dig it out of there. James looked toward the boy who had the detective play the third song over and over for nearly an hour as he danced crazily. Listen to the radio talking about the last show. Someone got excited and had to call the state militia. They found it, Charlie. The boy was throwing his arms and legs around recklessly. Dance, Jim. This is real music. Sit down, Charlie. This is it for you, son. The detective pointed to the chair, ordering the boy to sit, but the boy continued for nearly a minute before stopping and looking at James. Don't you want to be free, Jim? Dance. I'm not going to ask you again. Just wait, Jim. In 1 minute and 7 seconds, you're going to receive a phone call. Tell your guy what you gave your wife 3 years ago on your anniversary. The boy took a seat, smiling. Excuse me? The boy said nothing. After Travelin' Band wore out its welcome in the room, the 4th song played from the record. Hey baby, jump over here. When you do the ooby dooby, I gotta be there. The boy had a big smile on his face. Don't tell me you forgot, he said. The detective's phone vibrated on the table in front of him, but he kept his eyes on the boy and his unnerving smile. The boy seemed lost in the music until he picked up his comic and began reading again, filling his mouth with more Skittles. The phone vibrated for a few seconds more, and James answered the call. 2:55 p.m. It's a computer detective, with wires going further down in the ground. Matthew observed the computer. The keyboard had a yellowish tint to it, and there were a few cracks along the casing. It was a 1984 Macintosh, an ancient relic in the age of computers. There's no body, James, just this old computer. You won't believe it. It's on. He wiped the mud from the screen. It's on a prompt screen. The other men crouched in the hole they dug, inspecting the cords. They had tugged on them, but the cords held firmly. "What's he saying?" asked one of the men. "What are we supposed to do?" 3:01 p.m. He says to type in the prompt box. James looked over at Charlie, who had his face nearly buried in the comic. He gulped down some cream soda, filled his mouth with Skittles, and turned the page. A wondrous apparition provided by magician do-do-do-do looking out my back door. The fifth song put the detective in a dreamy state, and the boy looked up and studied the sadness in the man's face. "She loved it, Jim. Bother me tomorrow, today I'll buy no sorrow. You have to do it." James didn't know if it were some unseen force persuading him to do so, but he told the officer on the phone what to type. "Dragonfly," he told him, remembering the diamond barrette he gave his wife 3 years ago. "Type it." 3:04 p.m. Officer Sanchez dusted off the keyboard and wiped the rain from the monitor, holding the phone to his ear with his shoulder. "What if it's a bomb?" He studied the screen, the cords, the keyboard. In his ear, the detective said the boy assured him it wasn't. "I don't know, Jim. I think we should get these guys out of here." The other men could hear the detective scream through the phone, ordering Matthew to type, even over the rainfall. Matthew typed in the word, hesitated for several seconds, then hit execute. The rain stopped. His phone shut off. It was silent all around them. Matthew looked up at the chopper, and as he did so, it began twirling in the air, taking a fell swoop and plummeting to the earth below. They could hear the desperate cries coming from the helicopter before it hit, then each of the men dropped like flies. 3:06 p.m. James looked at the screen on his phone, which stated the call had been disconnected. The boy set the comic down, and the light flickered, shut off, and then lit the room once again. The sixth track of the record boomed. The detective tried calling Officer Sanchez back several times to no avail. "What happened out there, Charlie?" "I wouldn't know. I'm in here," the boy replied. "Whoa, thought it was a nightmare. Lord, it was so true." "The devil's on the loose. Better run through the jungle," the boy sang. "Better run through the jungle, Jim." The boy laughed. "Run through the jungle, Jim. Jungle, Jim. Jungle, Jim. Jungle, Jim." The detective screamed at the boy. "What happened to them?" The boy swayed his head back and forth, rhythmically tapping his hands to the eerie song, avoiding the question. "Charlie, you answer me. What happened out there?" The boy watched as a woman swung the door open. "James, you have to get out here. We're getting hundreds of 911 calls. People are dropping dead everywhere." The detective looked back at the boy, who was singing under his breath. Come away if you're going. Leave the sinking ship behind. Come on the rising wind. We're going up around the bend." "It's not just here. It's all over the world," said the woman frantically. The boy laughed. "They're your bodies, Jim. You can ponder perpetual motion, fix your mind on a crystal day. Always time for a good conversation. There's an ear for what you say." Needless to say, when I observed Officer Sanchez execute the prompt, I pitied your kind. Slow, weak, ignorant. The boy was right. James was a speck, and so were all the others. I viewed the bodies in the hole, the burning helicopter 100 yards away. I won't lie to you, I felt sad. For all these specks combined to form something better than your dear Pollock painting. In your constant failure, I still felt compassion and love from you. You may have a lot of questions, but you'll understand in time, much like the boy. And you were close. Closer this time than any other. But it always ends the same way. You get too greedy, and I have to fix it. Now you might be wondering what happens next, but just around the bend, you're getting close again.